Welcome to part 2 of my episode discussing the recent decision from President Nana Akufo-Addo of the Republic of Ghana to actually implement a visa-free mechanisms for Africans starting on January 1st, 2025. Well, guys, before I continue this amazing topic, rest assured that I am not Ghanaian. I do not have any Ghanaian origins. I know that I've been talking about Ghana like in my last couple of episodes for 2024, and definitely I can definitely tell you that I'm not being sponsored by any Ghanaian authorities or any Ghanaian friends. Thing is, like, this podcast is all about discussing development and political, issues and topics that are relevant to Africa's development. And one of my job here is not just to highlight what's not working, but it's also to highlight what, in my opinion, is pretty good. And I mean, I think it's just a simple fact, like it's a mere fact, and I do not think that this is open to debate, is that when we're looking at all the power transition system in West Africa, and I'm just going to stick to West Africa because I don't want to extrapolate and make sure that I actually increase my likelihood of making an error. So I'm just going to be very smart here, and I will circumscribe this conversation to the West African region. So when we're looking at the West African region in terms of which country, in the last 5 years, had the best and the smoothest, power transition system, it's definitely Ghana. Ghana comes first, followed by somehow Senegal, even though they recorded some friction, but overall, the power transition mechanisms, went relatively well. But in terms of smoothest, power transition system in West Africa, it's definitely Ghana. They've been doing it right. Even better than Cote d'Ivoire, better than definitely Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. There's not even a comment to make there. So what I wanted to keep in mind is that I'm not Ghanaian. I'm a son of Africa, definitely. And I love, also, I love highlighting what's working in Africa. And I think 2024 is still a great year for Ghana because they run almost the perfect, election, minor the 2 or 3 deaths, that they recorded. But overall, the success rate is relatively over 95%. So this is amazing. If I had to rate the election in Senegal, I'd definitely say 70 to 75%, but stay tuned. I'll definitely release an episode where I will be definitely, assessing the power transition system in Senegal and what is it that some African countries can actually replicate and what's not to replicate. Well, let me coming back to the part 2 of my topic. So, as you know, in this part 2, I will continue discussing this very interesting decision when it comes to, implementing a visa-free mechanisms for Africans to actually make sure that African passport holders can now, or at least starting from January 1st, 2025, visit Ghana visa-free. Visa-free. Guys, visa-free is amazing. Do you imagine, what a relief this decision is? You no longer need to stress. You no longer need to worry. And I'm curious to know about, how many of you guys already applied, for a visa to go to Europe, to any European countries, American, or at least to visit an international country. Do you know how stressful it is? This is the time when you literally wish that you were born in America or in France, not just because you are so fond of these countries, it's just because of all the benefit that you get. So being able to have an environment where, thanks to your citizenship, or actually let me reformulate, being in a context where you no longer need to wish that you have or that you had, another citizenship from another country, but like where your current citizenship and especially your African passport is no longer an obstacle to your traveling plan. Do you know how good is that? Oh, come on, man. Definitely. Anyway, you're listening to your favorite podcast, Smart, Intellectual, Knowledgeable African Talks, and I'm S.I.K.A, the producer and the main host of this amazing podcast. Well, S.I.K.A Talks is the coolest podcast you will ever listen to if you want to be aware of the latest development and political trends in Africa. So this is definitely the platform you should be listening to. And of course, I encourage you to listen to other podcasts and other platforms. Definitely, like having variety of opinion is definitely important, especially to you guys, because you are a young African intellectual and you are also someone who's deeply, invested and passionate about Africa's development. So I think I've already discussed the objective of this podcast. Like if you followed my introduction, this is definitely what this podcast is about. Well, so let me try and seduce you a little bit. If you're not yet a member of our community, well, all you have to do is to click on the subscribe button. And you can also go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and try and download the podcast. And if you love multitasking, I would definitely recommend, the audio format, which is only available on Spotify and Apple Podcast, because you'll be able to do other things while listening to the latest, most powerful perspectives on the latest topic regarding Africa's development. Yeah, I think I talked a lot, right? Okay, it's fine. So in part one, I was discussing, this decision, and I will definitely invite you to listen to part one before listening to this part. So here I will continue, my analysis, because I couldn't, do so. Otherwise, the episode will be longer than 20 minutes, and it may be a bit, anyway. So now let's look at the benefit of implementing such very interesting mechanisms. Well, the first benefit, obviously, you can think of is that by removing all the visa process and all the hurdles when it comes to traveling to your country, well, it will help you first becoming a beacon, in fostering economic, social, and cultural integration in Africa. This is amazing. This is very important. Like, what does it mean? In simple and in plain English, it just means that you will no longer disincentivize people from traveling to your country. So whether they're traveling for economic purpose, and by economic purpose, we are referring to investors and entrepreneurs who are likely, to be traveling to seek new business opportunities, new partnership and collaboration opportunities in all the economic sectors that your country has to offer, whether it is in the transport industry, the tourism industry, the health industry, the military industry, the finance industry, the agriculture industry, you name it. Like every investors, who can clearly see your country as, the new El Dorado, or any entrepreneur who can think of the next best solution to actually how can I say, to better, the social and the economic welfare of the people might definitely be interested to travel to your country to seek, opportunities, collaboration, partnership with government or with the private sector. So this is definitely a win-win scenario and a win-win situation. In terms of social and cultural integration, well, again, all you stand to gain here are definitely bonuses. Like you stand to gain many, 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 many good stuff. Cultural integration and social integration means that, people from West Africa, other West African countries, or people, that have dual citizenship, let's say they were born from a father that is of Ghanaian origin and the mother is of Nigerian origin or South African origin, and now they wish to reconnect with their other part of themselves. definitely they will actually like find it easier to reconnect with their people, their culture. And again, this may actually lead to another economic opportunity because there is a huge market to actually promote within the cultural sphere. It's incredible. You have no idea. And let me give you a very interesting example. Something that you can actually think of if you were even contemplating your next business venture. Right now in West Africa, and particularly in Cote d'Ivoire, there's a very interesting trend around traditional wedding. Traditional wedding is now a business that is very lucrative in Cote d'Ivoire. And even in South Africa, which I happen to visit, from time to time, traditional wedding is very interesting. Like people get to actually show off in their traditional gown and traditional attire, and like they can also like show off their traditional jewelries and stuff like that. So imagine visiting Ghana or visiting another African country that shares a very interesting culture or a pretty similar culture as your country of origin. You can also think of like new collaboration, like opening a shop or opening a business or even opening a vlog or creating a vlog on YouTube, to actually like show the cultural beauty, the cultural diversity or the cultural similarity between your country and the visiting country. So this is all a win-win situation. Like I can't think of like something wrong with opening your borders to another African or to the entire African countries. Another very interesting benefit to also consider is that we have to give it when it's right. The African Union, under the new program that they actually created, like it's called the African Continental Free Trade Area, whose objective is actually to create one African market. I think this is one very interesting program and one very interesting project because it seeks to actually turn Africa, into the biggest, market with actually like 1.3 billion customers, like prospective customers. So imagine selling something. Imagine selling traditional attire, like I say. I mean, you are from South Africa and now you are, like importing stuff from Ghana to South Africa. And imagine having access to the 16 million, South African market. And now imagine being able to sell it like almost like in Tanzania, in Rwanda, and under your company. This is amazing. This is incredible. So it's a win-win. It's all about win, And I mean, I don't even know how to put it. It's not just the economic benefit, but like I said, the social benefit, the cultural benefit, the fact that it also promotes, the development agenda, that is actually being led by the African Union under the Agenda 2063 that currently envisions, a continent of seamless borders and also management of cross-border resources through dialogue. I mean, this is all good, for Ghana first, but it's also all good, for the rest of Africa. And let me also think of like one other benefit. I mean, in addition to what I just mentioned, I mean, I can't think of something else. So I don't know what about you. Like, in addition to the economic, the social, and the cultural benefit, the fact that it may actually draw, more attraction from investors and entrepreneurs, even from students. And this is also another benefit. Well, yeah, it also creates like a very interesting benefit for students because now students can actually think of some exchange program and country can actually like give better opportunity. Let's say you live in a specific country and for some particular reason, you are looking to develop a particular skill that's happening to be like more developed in Ghana. This is definitely a very interesting opportunity. Now your parents or your family or even yourself no longer have to worry about like gathering money to make sure that they can actually pay your visa application. And sometimes visa application can be quite costly, I mean, for some of us who've been traveling, and visiting the world, we all know what we're talking about. So this is definitely, again, a win-win situation, even for education, even for students. So it's not just profitable to investors and entrepreneurs and to public authorities. Like, students also, in terms of education, can also benefit, from this very conducive environment. And obviously, like I say in my previous recording, in my previous episode, if we take the reflection further and deeper, we might be able to find some drawbacks, of course. And, those who are actually against the diversification or the democratization of the visa-free scheme, all across Africa, are actually using three key arguments. And when it comes to those three key arguments, I want you to pay attention. The first inconvenient, according to those people who are actually against a visa-free system in all African countries, because according to them, it may actually promote illegal immigration. And let's be honest, this is one of the key arguments used in South Africa. And it's a shame. I'm really sorry about that, but I need to highlight that. But not to say that everyone is in favor of that kind of analysis, but I'm saying here is like it's the general trend. When thinking of a policy that will actually, open the borders of a specific African country to another African country, the key argument brought to the fore is the illegal immigration argument. And in my opinion, it's very sad and it's a pity and it's very disgusting. So what about the same argument when it comes to opening an African country borders to EU countries or to the US or to Canada or to some developed Asian nations like China, India? What about that? So what are they saying here? What they are implicitly saying is that Africans are actually prone to illegally immigrate more than actually citizens of international country, which is completely wrong. And this is a false statement, definitely. Do you have any data? Do you have actually evidence to actually demonstrate that when opening your border to the rest of Africa, you are actually more prone to a surge in terms of illegal immigration than opening your border to EU country members or to American countries or to Asian countries? Can one African countries, for instance, provide a public report where they actually, did some research when it comes to other immigrants, coming from, non-African countries? So to me, this is a fallacious and this is very ridiculous. These are actually some flimsy reasons that, people lacking constructive argument are actually using to negatively portraying, the African continent and some other African countries. And actually to give you a proof of, or to give you some evidence, like I said, Ghana will become the fifth country starting from January 1st, 2025 to actually authorize all Africans, to visit their country. And if you are keen to ask, Rwandan authorities or the authorities in Seychelles and Benin, who have been, implementing this progressive, regulation, before Ghana, ask them if they are currently dealing with a surge of illegal immigration. I think this is one way, to go about those who are actually against, the opening of the African continent to African people. Another inconvenience that some people tend to actually offer in their analysis of this kind of scheme is that it may also, represent a considerable strain in public resources and infrastructure. And the last argument that they're also using is called logistical insecurity. So what they mean by these two arguments, roughly, simply put, is that by receiving or by actually having a surge in visitors or a surge in immigration, whether it's illegal or legal, might actually put a strain on public resources and infrastructure, meaning that in terms of like access to hospitals, access to free schools, access to free medical cover, stuff like that, access even like the use of roads and some public infrastructure when it comes to like to energy, to water and stuff like that might actually no longer be at the disposal of the local people, the domestic people, so i.e. the nationals. And again, guys, this is ridiculous. Like, where have we seen that kind of situation? Where have we actually seen that kind of situation? I mean, this is a genuine question. If you can think of a scenario where one country, and I already gave you the name of 4 African countries that are currently implementing the visa-free scheme and making sure that their country stays open to the rest of Africa. Can you tell me whether Rwanda has been put under that kind of situation, whether Seychelles, whether Benin, whether the Gambia, all have been put in the scenario where they can no longer, have access to their public resources and infrastructure, or they are actually under a logistical insecurity thanks to illegal immigration or legal immigration even. Well, this has been fun and very interesting. I'm just gonna end this analysis here. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and remember, do not forget to drop a like if you enjoyed this episode. This is how you can support the community. This is also how you can show how cool you are. And this is definitely how you can actually show that you are enjoying my episode. Thank you for listening to S.I.K.A Talks, the only podcast where strong realities meet powerful perspectives. À bientôt.